Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I worked on my favourite stone, the Boulder Opal, and you can see this one has this nice little pool of colour here. It looks like it's just trickled down a little crack here, found a little pocket, filled it up, deposited a bit of opal, some nice little blue-green colour there. And I gotta say, even though the opal looks real good, I love the look of this ironstone. It's that really nice, rich coloured stuff. Super cool. Beautiful pattern sometimes, but this one we're going to focus on this little nut in the middle. If I flip it over to the other side, you can see it's a bit of an angled piece. So the face of it will actually be this right here. So the main concern is going to be this sandy stuff just in here. A little bit infiltrated as the opal came in, and unfortunately it's sitting in the face there. If I shine a light through, I can see that it is there. It doesn't seem to be a lot back down here, so we might be okay. The nut starts center point there, goes up here, center point up here. So you can see it's a bit of a diagonal piece across here, which is not a problem at all. We'll just grind this away until we hit the color, and hopefully we've got a nice little tube here that we can turn into a stone. If I lay it down and get a ruler, I think what we're going to end up with is something that goes along here. So we'll end up cutting pretty deep into the color and just end up with a nice little opal and hopefully sand free. It does have a weird little bit of angle where it comes up a little bit higher on this side, but it's going deeper down here. So who knows, the face might actually be something more like this here, and which is good. That'll give us a bit of a wider stone as well. The other thing I'm thinking about with this stone, as you can see, the pattern is projecting these little fingers in this direction, but it'll terminate a little bit differently at the top. I'm not entirely sure. You can't fully predict what it's going to terminate as on the face, but I'm hoping it's going to be for something fairly interesting. But I mention this because the way that we angle this face is going to change the pattern completely. The more like this we get, the more we're going to have these lines, a bit of zebra stripy stuff, almost like a Ethiopian opal finger pattern. But as we turn it, we're going to be changing the part of the finger that we get. Like here, it'll be dead on, and maybe we'll end up with more of a pinfire kind of pattern. But on a bit of an angle, on a slant, we could end up with something very different. But you know what? We're going to let the stone tell us what it wants and just follow it along. So let me get out one of the big bad boys. We're going to remove a fair bit of ironstone. I could use a slicer and just slice across, but then I'm pre-predicting the angle that we're going to have the face at. And I don't want to do that because I want to be really careful and retain as much as possible. I just want to remove enough to get rid of the sand. So instead we are going to go for the really heavy coarse grit burr and just remove a lot of material. The good thing about a piece like this is I've got a lot to hold on to here, which makes this stone super easy to handle. Just like that, and I'll just run the burr straight across the top. So let's spin to win. Alright, my voice is a little bit fried today, so we're gonna take it easy. And this stone is not easy. I have a moment here where I have a nervous panic attack because it doesn't look like it's gonna go well, but you'll see that I do manage to pull it off. So we're starting off with the 80 grit sintered diamond and working on those key areas. So number one, all of this sand in the face. It looked pretty superficial, but as it turns out, it never really is. And it does dive in pretty deep, which is never great, but you can see it's coming off pretty quickly with this 80 grit sintered diamond. Definitely worth being scared of this burr. It will chew through this material like it barely even exists. The only thing you notice is the color that it's spraying out. It's either red for the ironstone, white for the sand, or also white for the opal. It will disappear super quick. It is taking chunks of opal and ironstone away from this like shark bites. It is absolutely very dramatic for a burr. Definitely not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So here we jump forward a little bit. Because of how aggressive that burr is, I'm already switching over to the 600 grit. Ironstone removes really easily, so even the 600 grit will get rid of it. It gets a little bit gummy where the bigger burr will throw it away with no problems, but that's okay. It just means a lot more dunking. And you can see here we've got some ironstone pockets, we've got some sand pockets. Not the best combination. We want to get rid of all of these, and we want to get rid of them with that 600 grit. You can see here we're getting through it. I'm focusing on these ironstone spots because they're going to be the most obvious, and I was also the most confident that they were coming out. You can see I'm getting pretty low in that top corner. This is when I'm starting to get a little bit nervous, but still not too bad. We've got some color bar, just keep wiping it away. And you can see now when I start needling that area, that's when you know I'm starting to think I might be in trouble here. So just going through, dunking it constantly, And yeah, you can see me side glancing the edge. I am definitely nervous. So 1000% nervous, easily 1000%, maybe possibly more. You can see me just looking side on. It's that spot right in the middle. It is looking deep. It's looking real bad, and the opal's looking real good. That's when you get a little bit nervous. At this point, I stopped, shone the light through, and saw that it's pretty close. There's a tiny little edge there where the sand is coming in, and I'm pretty certain I can get rid of it, but you can't be perfectly sure. So here I'm just gonna really focus on it, just see if I can get rid of it, because if I can't get rid of it, that's when you have to bring the slicer out and really make some amputations. And we don't want to amputate unless really necessary. Here I'm just being very hopeful, very optimistic, very careful, even with the 600 grit, and you can see it is fading, 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 and gone. And this is when I breathe a massive sigh of relief. Huge sigh of relief. If we zoom right into it, have a look. Those other spots further up, I can already tell that those will come out. There was just that one in the center. And then I switch over to our saw blade, good old saw blade, and I chop off a big bulk of the ironstone surrounding the opal. So I want to take off the side, I want to take off the other side, and I want to take off the bottom, because there's just too much of it there, and I want to get rid of it and just have a little look at what's left. So big chunks all gone, and all I'm left with is just that little bit of opal on some ironstone, and you can see the shape here. It's pretty interesting. But what's more interesting is that the color is absolutely popping. Absolutely beautiful stone. This stone alone pays off the parcel that it came from. Well and truly. This is yeah, one of those lucky ones where one single stone covers the bulk of your cost. If not all of it. In this case, it probably would have covered all of it, because this was a bit of a beginner's parcel from Nick Hoops, my one and only supplier of Boulder Opal. It's very hard to buy off anyone else. Okay, and here we are. Now, I don't want to fully finish this stone because I want to ask you guys what I should do with it. Because what I'm seeing here, I'm not a huge fan of the show, but I'm seeing a Star Trek symbol. I just need to correct this a little bit more because I took off a lot of that pointy part when I was grinding it back down to shape. I've just taken in all the edges. I've left the back nice and thick so I can still hold it very easily to do the final shaping and polishing stages once I decide on the shape. But yeah, Star Trek or not Star Trek. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is take off this little point here and probably just do an oval. It's not a very uneven stone or anything, so I've got plenty of bar to work with here, as you can see from the side. It's turned out to be a lovely stone, so I've really got the freedom to do whatever I want, and the only part that I'm restricted is over in this top corner here. So I can get away with tilting it slightly to a face more like that, and getting rid of this edge and doing an oval. So that is probably the most sensible way to go, but I am willing to do other things because I want to learn how to carve and set unusual stones anyway. And a Star Trek logo is not that unusual, and I'm pretty sure that's got a big market still these days. Now, the other thing I want to mention with this one is the pattern. So like I said, when we're looking at it on the side, you can see it's got those fingers of light. Basically, it looks like it's just, when you see those rain clouds from a distance and you see the water columns just falling down, that's what I'm seeing when I'm looking at a bar like this. Now what that means is as you go further and further around, you end up getting this little terminating pattern. So this is where all those little fingers of opal, the fingers are different thicknesses, but they all terminate into these little, almost pinfire, but pretty blocky still. Those fingers aren't always circular, so you don't always end up with pinfire. My favorite is the jigsaw pattern. And here you can see there's one or two pieces of jigsaw just down here, which is fantastic. It's a bicolored stone, and with bicolored stones, I really like when they are a 50-50 mix. And at some angles, these are pretty close to the purple-green, blue-green 50-50 mix. But in others, it's a little bit too dominated by the green. I think the green likes to take over. In person, of course, the green is a little bit stronger than the blue because the blue comes up on camera a lot more. It's got a bit of a different range to our human eye. But one of my favorite Pulitzer Opal videos where he looked at the finger pattern on Ethiopian opal and how it turns out to terminate into honeycomb a lot of the time. Here we've got a very similar idea, but not honeycomb on the top. It's a pretty rare pattern in Boulder Opal, not very common at all. Much more common in Ethiopian opal, so if you're after that kind of pattern, definitely hunt around there. Surprisingly common. You know what? We lost a lot of material here. I didn't do a breakdown because we are still not at the end. This is still going to lose 50% of the weight that it's got now before it gets finished. So you're looking at a huge loss, but a lot of it was just nice ironstone that just got sliced off pretty easily. And this stuff is like clay. It's like putty. Carving it off is really quick and easy. I did most of it with the 600. Of course, I started out with the 80 because I had a lot to do. And I had a lot of opal and sand mixed in with the opal to remove, and that's much harder than the ironstone. And then I did that little trick like I always do, where I've just flattened out a patch. Once I find the face and get the direction right, I like to trim off the back just a little bit to make it so that when I rest it on my finger, I'm looking at the face that I'm ideally going to end up with, which is this one just here that I chose. I could have gone a little bit more this way, but there's that potchy section just to the back here, which I didn't like. So I've ground some of that back and made sure that the face is more like right about there. So all I need is the final shape from you guys, and I will run with that. I don't know if the viewership is full of Trekkies or not, but we'll soon find out. Just leave a comment. I love to get other people's opinions before I make a lot of these decisions. I think it'll work pretty well either way, oval or Star Trek symbol. I don't even know which one would sell better because Star Trek is pretty popular, and I could imagine Star Trek people finding opal pretty fascinating, but that might just be my bias. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Stone might be back. If I'm just going to cut it into an oval, maybe not, but even in that case, it might come back for when I'm setting it. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.